In this section, we will be exploring the relationship between individual functioning and overall family or relationship functioning. As we saw in the scenario earlier with Mary and Anne-Marie, both of them were primed to expect each other to respond in particular ways. Let's now briefly review this scenario.
Where are the car keys?
We've already spoken about this. You're not taking the car.
Why not?
Because the last time you wrapped it around a telephone pole.
That wasn't my fault. Jim completely distracted me. There's not even a scratch on the back bumper. Look, I really need the car.
You're not taking my car for a joyride.
I need to make my appointment. If Jason or Luke wanted it, you wouldn't even think twice about giving it to them.
They can be trusted to drive safely.
Well, I'm sorry I'm such a problem child. Look, I missed the bus and I really need to make my next session.
I don't want to hear about it. You're not taking the car and that's that.
I hate you! You're ruining my life!
Whoa, what's going on in here? The whole neighbourhood can hear you.
You deal with her.
Yeah. I'll deal with her, yeah? You sit there and finish your book and I'll deal with her as usual. Mary!
It is evident that Mary and Anne-Marie have a history of difficult interactions. It's also clear that Anne-Marie is very fearful that their relationship will continue in this vein. As such, Anne-Marie is expecting Mary to make demands of her, both emotionally and verbally, and as a result of this, she's making judgments and assumptions which negatively impact upon her ability to communicate effectively with Mary in this situation. And Mary then, in turn, makes judgments of Anne-Marie. So, yet again, we see how judgments lead to heightened emotion arousal, emotion dysregulation, and inaccurate expression. And this, in turn, leads to out-of-control behaviour and invalidation of oneself and each other. And Alan will now describe the reciprocal nature of this type of interaction and the consequences of such interactions.
Another word for a transaction is reciprocal or reciprocity, which means that what goes around comes around. It means that what one person does affects the other, and then what the other does comes back and affects the one. And so there's this ongoing round and round we go.
In this next scene, we meet Mark and his daughter Sarah. Sarah is 20 years old and has a 3-year history of repeated deliberate self-harm. Her mother died from cancer 4 years ago. Recently, Jane, Mark's new partner, has moved into the house, and this has caused Sarah to become more emotionally dysregulated. In this scene, we see Mark inquire about Sarah being out the night before. His primary emotion is fear for Sarah's safety, recognizing that she was home quite late and had been drinking.
Well,
What?
it's almost 11.
Don't start.
Don't start what?
It's a Saturday.
What time did you come in last night?
I don't know.
Well, I know. It was almost 4 o'clock in the morning. What the hell were you doing till 4 o'clock?
It's none of your business.
It is my business. You're my daughter. You go out looking like a bloody tramp and you come in at 4 o'clock in the morning reeking of drink. So yeah, it is my business. And look at me when I'm talking to you.
What the hell do you know about anything? It's my life, and I'll live it the way I want.
And this is my house. So you think about Jane and I, we have to work. Life isn't all one big bloody party. So you make a decision. Either you get a full-time job or you go back to university.
You don't know anything about me or my life. And why did you care all of a sudden?
What do you mean all of a sudden? You're my daughter. I care about the decisions you make. And you're making terrible ones.
I don't need this shit!
She shouldn't be this way. I can't understand why she acts like this. I've given her everything she ever wanted or needed. And her cousin Claire went to school on a rough estate and she got into university. I sent Sarah to the best private school in the city, out of my own pocket, and she drops out of a post-leaving cert course after a week. She should be thriving with all the advantages I've given her. She shouldn't be like this. It's completely disrespectful. I'm doing everything I can for her. I mean, why won't she take some bloody responsibility for her life? It shouldn't be like this.
It's so easy to accept the things that we do like. Let's imagine a scenario where you have won a major cash prize. For most of us, that would not be at all difficult to accept. Most of us would actually be quite excited. But then think about something that we might find more difficult to accept. Often when people behave in emotionally dysregulated ways and harm themselves, we find that incredibly difficult to accept. It's really difficult to accept things that cause us emotional pain. In order to fully accept life as it is, we need to engage in what's called radical acceptance. In this next section, Alan explains the concept of radical acceptance.
Acceptance is a tricky word. I think it's kind of loaded in our language. Acceptance, of course, literally simply means that it is what it is. Accepting reality, well, what else in the world could we do at some level? But acceptance somehow often conveys the idea that we should like it or that it will always be this way. And it's very important to recognize that acceptance just means in this moment. I might really want to go on a picnic and it's raining. I can accept that it's raining and either delay the picnic or go someplace else to have lunch instead. I can't really make it stop raining. There's really not much choice. So when we use the term radical acceptance, it's a way of saying that acceptance is really hard. Acceptance actually of reality is quite easy when we like it. If it's a lovely day and we want to have a picnic, we readily accept that it's a lovely day. We don't fight it. When it's raining and we want to go on a picnic, we might fight it. But we're fighting reality. We can't change reality, at least not in this moment. We could reschedule our picnic. That would be accepting the reality, which then can lead to acting effectively. So radical acceptance reflects the fact that it's hard and it may require an ongoing effort to do it.
As a person with borderline personality disorder, or as a family member or loved one, not accepting the reality of a difficult situation very often turns painful emotional experience into unbearable suffering. In the next section, you'll meet Connor. Connor is 34 years old and has a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. Connor experiences severe emotion dysregulation, and in particular, he experiences intense anger. And this is particularly pertinent when he's under the influence of alcohol, or if he perceives a situation to be beyond his control. In the next section, we'll see a situation where Connor struggles to accept reality.
Okay, so in this example, you can see this fellow he's thirsty. He's been working away and has developed some thirst, pretty normal. Goes to the machine, puts in some money, pushes the right buttons, but doesn't get a drink. And as the machine does sometimes, he pushes the change return button, but it keeps the money. So now he's paid some money, doesn't get the money back, doesn't have the drink. And primary emotion here, pretty common. We'd feel frustrated. We wouldn't like that. And that's really normal and absolutely healthy. The question is, what do we do now? Down the healthy path would be to accept the reality that this machine ate his money and isn't giving him his drink. and the other reality, which is he doesn't like it. Those are all just facts. So acceptance has to do with accepting facts. It doesn't mean that's a permanent state. He doesn't have to accept that he'll stay thirsty for the next 30 years. He has to accept, if he's going to be effective, that he is still thirsty, and this machine is not the way that he's going to take care of his thirst. Now, the trouble is, if he gets angry enough, if he gets judgmental enough, he does what lots of people do. He starts to shake the machine, or pound on the machine, or kick the machine. And, a little bit of that might actually be effective. It might jar the coin loose and might come back. But more than that, he also could get arrested. That would ruin his day. But even if he doesn't cause more problems in that sense, in that big sense, every second that he's pounding on the machine, cursing at the machine, standing there, his thirst is getting bigger, and the rest of his life is getting smaller. So the faster he can accept the reality, this isn't the way he's going to get a drink, the quicker he can stand away from the machine, go find a sink and get a glass of water.
So in this last section, you will have seen Alan explain how Connor's behaviour can often stop him from living his life as he really would like to. For the most part, Connor's behaviour only impacts on himself. But there are occasions when Connor's behaviour also negatively impacts on others. We will meet Jennifer, Connor's long-term girlfriend, who has struggled to set realistic limits with Connor. We will also meet Margaret, Connor's sister. Over the years, Connor has become reliant and quite dependent on Margaret for ongoing support.
So
hold it.
now we have it. You can just pop that.
You just pop this?
Pop that top. Yep.
You like this stuff?
I do.
Okay.
I actually went down to Jalisco, Mexico, or in Guadalajara, which is the tequila capital of the world. I don't know if you know this, but you can't make tequila.
I got bad news. We won in those dressing rooms. We have to perform.
I am not going out there as a woman pretending to be a man, pretending to be Tina Turner. I can't afford therapy on my salary.
What other choice do we have?
Okay. Now this is for confidence and courage because
she's always with that one. And Ciara really doesn't like me. Doesn't think I'm good enough for Jen. She's probably talking her into breaking up with me right now.
Really, really rare thing, okay? But I am not singing.
Fabulous Tina Turner! Everything's gonna be okay, just...
I hope he doesn't want to come over. I've been with him every evening this week and I need a break. I just want to spend time with Ciara and have a laugh.
You certainly do, sir.
Okay, so we have 3, because you're a big golfer, aren't you?
I need to get over there to Jen's and make sure that Ciara doesn't stick her oar in.
I love mini golf, so we've got 3.
If she really cared, she'd want to spend time with me.
This is...
I don't want to upset him, but I really don't want to say I'm not going over. What am I going to do?
She doesn't care about me anymore. She's probably going to leave me. I can't cope with life without Jen. She's my everything.
Guardiola and Jose Mourinho, they know it's all about the football. Guardiola's kept it low key. Tonight he's going to let his...
Why hasn't she replied?
Talking on the pitch. For Real Madrid, it must have been tempting for...
In the league, as Villa's on a run, is a stretch for Pepe. Iniesta, there'll be wave after wave of Barcelona attack tonight.
I hate Ciara. She is ruining things with me and Jen.
The same date.
Play it safe.
I'll text him in a while.
Making a move. Pepe stretches again. He's going to have his hands full tonight.
It certainly is. It's going to be interesting, fascinating for me, Rob. Will Real Madrid try and win the ball back? Will it be high at the pitch? Will they drop deep? Get numbers back behind the ball, allow Barcelona possession? For me, I think they have to try and contend with Busquets. It's going to be interesting if Benzema drops in or Mesut Ozil. Perhaps even...
If she leaves me, I'll never find anyone again. I'm all alone in this world.
The fans in front of us above their seats. The referee's done well, though. He's given the advantage to
But if you wake up and find I've done a shit in a vase, it's your fault, okay? Because that could happen. That has happened.
I didn't. It's weird. You don't strike me as a shit in a vase type.
Just shitting in vases.
Okay, just shitting in vases.
I hate her. Nobody cares if I live or die. I just want this pain to end.
I'm sick of him pressuring me. But if he does something to himself, it will be all my fault. I couldn't live with that.
It's quite concerning for Valdez. He's gone down and seems to be in some considerable pain. He seems to have sprung his shoulder. Now he's the last man they want to lose.
As we have seen, Jennifer was struggling to set realistic limits with Connor, rather than being honest with him about needing some time with her own friends. It is possible that Jennifer was becoming worn down by Connor's dependence on her, and as a result, she tried to avoid dealing with him or her own feelings. Poor communication resulted in Connor making assumptions and judgments about Jennifer and Ciara, and as he drank, he became increasingly dysregulated. The ultimate consequence for Connor was further self-harm, but for Jennifer, it was increasing worry and guilt, which would compel her to remain trapped in a dysfunctional cycle of interaction.
Connor? Is everything okay? What happened?
Me and Jennifer just broke up. I don't know what I might do.
It's okay.
Please help me.
It's okay. It'll be all right. I'm on my way over now. So worried about him. He's always ringing me in the middle of the night. Can't remember the last time I had a full night's sleep. But if I don't answer, then he might do something to really hurt himself. I did tell him I'd always be there for him if he needed me. I'm so worried about him. I'm the only person he can rely on.
We can see that Connor is surrounded by people who are quite fearful that he will ultimately end his life. For both Margaret and Jennifer, they have created an artificial environment in which Connor lives. It can be incredibly difficult to live in an environment where there's no balance in relationships.
So the question is, what should Margaret do? And of course, there's no easy answer here. But Margaret has to figure out what the balance point is, because if she continues to burn out, meaning that she's tired, she's exhausted, maybe she loses her job, she actually could be less and less available. She could become absolutely afraid of answering the phone. On the other hand, if she could be available sometimes, but also get a good night's sleep and work, she might have more energy to be more helpful a certain number of minutes per day or minutes per week. So in Family Connections, we talk about trying to observe our limits. And the reason we talk about observing limits is because when we say setting limits, it implies that there's a right place to do it. Like there's a property line and you build your fence on the property line, and that's a fixed thing. But in fact, social limits, interpersonal limits aren't fixed.